Hey, welcome back. Did you miss me? Did you wonder to yourself, where is Carl? How come he hasn't posted any videos? How come he hasn't put out any shorts or anything on District of Unity? Well, I told you earlier in my last video, it was my birthday month. Well, birth month to be more accurate. And, I had some business to take care of. And I had, said I was going to take a little hiatus and kind of shuffle things around and enjoy life a little bit. And then I'll post some videos and get on everybody's nerves like I've been doing. So, with all that being said, did you miss me? I mean, put something in the comments that you actually miss seeing my pretty face up there, And look, it's too early and too late to be lying to me, so, go ahead and put your thoughts in there. But outside of that, let's get to the subject at hand. Women versus men. All right. First of all, we have different ways of thinking. It's the Venus versus Mars aspect of it. And no, I'm not going to sit over there and completely bash women, nor am I going to completely praise men. But here's the thing. We all have to understand. There are differences between the two genders, okay? And, they can say this is an insult or whatever they want. I'm talking about natural born genders. If you was born a woman and you were born a man, and I'm going to leave it at that. So, anyhow, one thing that women do well, they know how to separate themselves from a situation without getting too involved. And they're not afraid to put a different perspective out there, even at the risk of, pissing off the opposite gender or pissing off other people and so forth. One thing about men that's really good is that we're task oriented and we're driven to get that task done. So if we want to put together that shed or we want to, work on that car or, any menial task like that, we will sit there. It will take us all night, the next day, the next week. We're going to work on that damn thing until we get it. If we're doing pest control, we're going to sit over there and try to get every pest that's there or not there just so we can do our job, And women, they will try to distract you with it. Like, okay, you're doing, let's just say you're doing a calculus exam, for example. They would do every possible thing, even if they are not interested in communicating with you at that point, just to see if they can distract you, even if they're not in a relationship with you. Men, on the other hand, we have a tunnel focus sometimes that takes us so far away from reality that we have to back up and say, okay, what the hell are we doing? I'm just moving the camera over a little bit. So, anyhow, one thing that women have a big weakness on that men seems to handle well, and get ready for it, rejection. Okay? A woman cannot be rejected at all, especially if she's the aggressor. It is so ego deflated for them, they do not know how to come back with it. Okay? When a guy goes out there and pursues a woman and he's rejected, of course, he'll get embarrassed, hurt, whatever, but he'll move on lightning quick from that woman, and sometimes he could treat that woman like she never existed. But if the woman becomes the aggressor, especially if she's trying to pursue a friendship, relationship, and stuff like that, and she's rejected, And the hotter she looks, the more likely that will turn her into a stalker. Okay? Men become stalkers after they get into a sexual relationship with a woman and the woman decides, I don't want any more of this. I'm done. And that's one of the women's superpower. Okay? I'm diving into it early, so, I'm just going to tell her like it is. Basically, a woman has this superpower, and a lot of women apply this to men, but it's more of the woman's superpower. She can literally have sex with anyone just one time, and she's good. She's done. She can act like you never existed. It's like it could have been the best sexual experience she ever had, you ever had. You can write novels on it, you can make porn tapes, whatever the hell you want to make. Once she's done with you, she is done with you. You know what I'm saying? She could disregard any feelings that she had for you and move on. Or she can, be around you and act like y'all never did anything. That's how women can move on with that experience. Guys, not so much. If he had that one experience with her, he's always thinking like, man, I can't wait to get back with her. I can't wait to do, this with her. And then she's like, that's all right. Move on. Now, if I turn that back around to what I said earlier about rejection with the women and how they can't handle it, it's like they always have to have the why to it. And then even if it made sense why the guy turned her down, oh, she has too many kids. Oh, she's going to be, one of those ones that, she's a needy person, whatever. Whatever the reason is that the guy completely rejects her. And I'm talking about guys that never had a sexual relationship with this woman. And like I said, the more beautiful she is, the more hot she is, I'm talking about as in terms of looks, the more likely you will turn her into a stalker. And I've indirectly done that because it was some very beautiful women that was attracted to me and I was attracted to them. I mean, I'm not going to make it seem like it was a one-sided thing. They got aggressive, and the aggression wasn't a turn off. Some of their flaws, and I'm not talking about physical flaws, I'm talking about either mental or, they had vices like, one was, so heavy into marijuana, or, one was kind of an alcoholic and another one had too much of an anxiety complex that I was like, sorry, I don't even want to pursue this. And I kind of dropped them flat, And let me be honest with you. I think in the past 15 years, I have pushed away more women than they ever pushed me away my first 15 years in pursuing them, because usually if there's a mutual interest, then the guy starts to chase and all of this other stuff. But lately, maybe it's because of how the world has turned since COVID and George Floyd and everything else, I just like, that's all right. I don't need to fight for testosterone. You know what I'm saying? I don't want a woman that thinks she is a man. I'm sorry. I just have to put it out there. If she is that hard up, as in terms of saying, I got you, baby, and all this, that's a big turnoff to me, And I bet you that's a turnoff to a lot of men out there, too, because it's like, we're not saying that we want a needy woman, okay? We're not saying that she got to be like the princess and all of this other stuff that you see in movies and TV shows, or prima donna like you would see on a soap opera or something like that. But there's a feminine quality that she has to have where it's like the guy feels comfortable. Like, okay, this is my girl, this is my woman, whatever. And I know, I know, guys over the past 60, 70 plus years has made it real hard for women to fall in love with guys because we've been extremely misogynistic when it comes to jobs. We've been extremely misogynistic when it came to just social settings and music, especially in hip hop, especially just if you watch some of these old TV shows and how the guy always put the woman in her place, and some of the commercials from that time, you know, and even some of the newscasts. I mean, they'll mention, oh, the nagging wife and stuff like that. You know, it is almost as if I don't want to hear what you got to say. Just do as I say. You see what I'm saying? It was almost like a second parent. And that wasn't all. Look, a lot of relationships wasn't that way. And then, of course, it would accelerate into arguments, some cases abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, mental, whatever, you know. But the truth of the matter is, I think when it came to the hip hop generation, once it started in the 80s, because you think about how the songs transition from love and being courted, and you know, you can watch some of the hyperfeminism, toxic masculinity series that we did. Men pushed too far. Okay? I will say that. You know, a lot of it is America, maybe the world has gotten away from the church, you know, spirituality, whatever. And a lot of the order has changed, and it's changed so much that it's like men made themselves unreliable, okay? Because it's like they're out there chasing so much tail that they forget, you know, oh, I got a relationship, I have kids, I have this, I have that, you know? And women got to the point where it was like, look, I'm an independent woman. I can do what I want to do. If the guy can do it, I can do it. Okay? And you think about it, back in the day, if a woman was non committal and she had several guys, they'd be like, man, she's a trash bag hoe. And it's like, you don't want nothing to do with this woman because she'll sleep with any guy and so forth. Now, if the guy was doing the same thing, oh, he's sowing his royal oats and so forth. I mean, the double standards and all of that is definitely present when it comes to that, and it still is. But the thing of it is, when it comes to relationships, a serious relationship, I look for women that are willing to be in a relationship and look, we care for each other, okay? And I'm not going to get too far into that because I'm thinking I'm speaking for most men that are looking for women out there, okay? But let me get back to some of the differences here. So, women, they can't stand rejection if they're the aggressor. They'll get depressed. They'll, you know, they don't have a coping mechanism with that because they're used to suitors. They're used to like 10, 11 guys wanting them at one time, maybe more, maybe less, whatever. And then that one guy who is not gay, who is not, he's just a straight man, and people call it cis, CIS, you know. He's a cisgender guy. I cannot keep up with all these acronyms. Stop it already. So, anyhow, those particular guys that want women and they look at a woman who is a society 8 through 10 and he could say no to her because he sees some flaws or some quirks that he is not willing to deal with, that tears a woman up. And social media makes it worse because it's like, well, I'm going to see what he's doing. I'm going to see who he's with. Why doesn't he want me or whatever? They'll pursue that to the bitter end. Whereas guys, he might check her out and so forth. And here's the backhand thing of a lot of guys. Okay, if she's putting all of this out here, even if she has an OnlyFans page and stuff like that, what is she going to do when she gets with me? Is she going to totally be into me, or is she still going to be putting these pictures out here like this and so forth, where everybody can see what she has? Well, I'm making a living, and you put out all your bodybuilding pictures, blah blah blah. Okay, if would the guy be willing to compromise and say, I won't put any of these pictures out here if you don't put any of these pictures out here? And how much is money worth to you to do that? And I know I'm bouncing from here, there, every place else. I'm like a ping pong ball right now. But let's think about a relationship. Do you want everybody in your relationship, or do you want to focus on what you two are doing? You see what I'm saying? And guys, their thing is loyalty and admiration. They want love, but it's like if a woman kind of pursues the guy, and this sounds very misogynistic, it sounds egoish or whatever, but when a woman appreciates a guy for the stuff that he does, it's like you can pull him around with purse strings. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see relationships where it's like the guy looks like a 10 and the woman is like a 4 or whatever, and he's all with her because she massages his ego. He is feeling that she's going to be loyal to him, regardless of all of the other suitors out there and so forth and so on. Now, the reverse happens where you see a woman that's a 10 and a guy that's a 4 because he makes her feel secure. Women are played by their own insecurities. They want to be loved, they want to have a purpose, and they want to feel like they are adding something to who they're with, and they have the option of, meaning they have the option of working, they have the option of staying home. It depends. If they feel like this guy got her back, she will stay in that relationship. She won't. The other men can look like a 10 and she's a 10. She don't want nothing to do with it. And just like what I talked about with the guy, if he feels like, he's being admired, he's being appreciated, and loyalty is there is nothing on earth that guy won't do for that woman. All right? Now, obviously, this is not a comprehensive list of everything between a man and a woman and talking about the differences of talking about some scenarios. But it's just to get the conversation started. All we have to do is just realize, what our differences are and try to work with those differences to make each other better so we can actually have better relationships. Now, obviously, I'm going to do a part 2 to all of this at some point, but I don't want the video to get too much longer on this subject, but I'm just starting it off. I'm starting off the conversation with the differences between men versus women and, how we handle certain situations differently. Okay? So, getting back to the rejection side of things. When an aggressive woman is rejected, she tends to overplay her hand to the point where it almost becomes clownish. She can get either very dramatic, she can start crying, she can act out. A guy, he tends to get, either okay or like, well, you ain't all that anyway. You just full of blah blah blah. Those are the usually the ways are, all right, see you later. The guy do something like that. But when a woman is rejected, there's no template for her to follow off of being rejected flat. And I've noticed how women will overcompensate by, you know, taking steps too far to try to lure that man in, even though the man literally may not want anything to do with her. You know, whether it's you know, a simple attraction, sex, lust, anything, even just friendship. I started it off by talking about that, but I just think within the environment, within the DNA of a woman, it's like she's used to being boosted by somebody, okay? And when she is not boosted and she's kicked to the curb without even coming into the house, it's almost like she would literally turn and do anything to get in that house. She would even try to sleep with the guy, even if, she is not remotely attracted to him. Because her wiring is like, oh, he's going to notice me, or he's going to, do this with me, whether he wants to or not. It's something about that repressed ego in women that says, oh, you don't think I'm all that? I'm going to show you that I am. And women have this thing. I don't care how fine that other woman looks, any woman, they will cut that woman up verbally, emotionally, whatever. And they'll just come out and say, she ain't this. You know who she slept with, who she I mean, it's like they'll find every piece of dirt on that woman to make her look as bad as she can, because they have this inferiority complex. Now, I may be wrong about the terminology, but superiority complex is when you think you're better than everybody else. Inferiority complex is when you know somebody is better than you, but you try to find advantages to supersede what that person's superior at. That may be wrong. I might have to look that up because I didn't do any research on that. But women suffer from inferiority complex, and men suffer from superiority complex, because guys are turned around, you know, they may feel indifferent about the guy, even if the guy is, better looking, younger, stronger, whatever. They always have in the back of their mind they can outsmart that guy, or they can physically outmatch that guy no matter what level that guy is. That's what guys usually go through. And guys are willing to say, all right, boss, you all right? You better? Then they become bros or whatever. Them women, they get so catty, they make an enemy for life, and it could be somebody in their own family. It doesn't matter, because it's like their protection is almost more animalistic than a guy's sometimes. A guy's animalistic streak usually comes from sex and that drive for sex, just to get with the girl. You know, the guy will get himself so amped up and wanting that girl and so forth, he'll do some stupid stuff that, it's like the woman is like, I can't believe he did that. And then other guys be like, I can't believe he did that, because they're not feeling that attraction, that primordial charge to, embrace that woman. And guys will, start stalking a woman and everything else based off of that. Girls, women will stalk a guy because of rejection and not being noticed, or just flat out like, this woman is like trash compared to me. And they will go out of their way if they don't cut off communication at all, they will go out their way to make sure you notice them. I'm telling you, it happens. I've done it indirectly a couple of times. I've done it directly a few times because I really didn't want to be bothered with the woman. And I'm telling you, they will stalk you to the very end, some of that stuff that you saw in the movies and so forth. What is it, Fatal Attraction, and it was another one that I can't even think of offhand. Tell me in the comments what it is. I think it's a thin line between love and hate and so forth. I'm not a big movie buff anymore because I don't watch regular television. I obviously know YouTube and so forth, but I'm just not into the movies unless I'm drag kicking and screaming on a date or something like that, or we have a movie night over here at the house and so forth. So if some random woman, that I'm dating at that particular time, Carl, can you please take me to see blah, 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 blah? It's like, all right, why not? You know what I'm saying? I may not be into the movie, but to be honest with you, sometimes I fall in love with some of those movies they pick out because I'm like, okay, I can get into this a little bit. But that's a whole different story. So tell me what you think about my opening salvo about men versus women. I'm going to do a part two, round two, whatever, next. But just something to get the conversation started. All right, like, share, and subscribe. I will see you later.